But in a situation where you find that a person look at the situation,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying. Now we'll go straight to the paper's review. We'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, and we have quite interesting stories, really. 2023, again, on the front page is the lead story. It says, moves to draft Emefiele thicken, and the writer says, Buhari's men pushing CBN governor. He won't go anywhere. Group begins nationwide mobilization. Don't distract him, Apex Bank is saying. So, yes. So, we'll get to see, I mean, some of the names that are being thrown out these days for the presidential race. You wonder why and how people come about this, even people who do not, never showed any interest, in political race before. We'll take a look at now the pictorial, shows you dignitaries in Sokoto to condole with the Sokoto State Government and the Sultanate Council over the death of Magajin Garin Sokoto Alhaji Hassan Ahmed Dambaba, who died at the weekend. And then below that, you'd see also property market thrives in Maiduguri as residents decry rent hike. Now, at the top there, just above the lead story, APC convention, sale of forms begins amidst zoning controversy. You'd also find private sector alliance raises 100 billion naira to fight insecurity. FG says Nigeria's social security system poor, seeks ILO's intervention. At the very bottom, the story says housewife found slaughtered in Kano. Reps summon NNPC GMD over 1.93 billion naira charter contract. ASU to decide on strike today. So these are the stories on the front page this morning.
Okay, on the Guardian newspaper this morning, the lead story, strike. Not again, anxious Nigerians warn federal government, ASU. And the riders, union extends meeting to announce decision today. Most lecturers support industrial actions, says source. Parents, stakeholders appeal for restraints. You'd also see ex-minister seeks intervention of former union leaders. And you see a pictorial there showing scarcity of fuel persisting in Lagos over the weekend, talking about yesterday. And you see other stories on the Guardian newspaper. Stakeholders kick as National Assembly delays NG Eagles takeoff over ARIC's 10.8 billion naira debt. And on page 7 on the Guardian newspaper, you see the story about stop sit at home before seeking political officers. Ohaneze tells Igbo politicians. And on page 23, talking business and finance, EU seeks partnership on proposed £150 billion African funding. And on page 27 on The Guardian this morning, why federal government's Lagos megacity project failed. Still talking business. On page 2 on The Guardian, you see NNPC yet to withdraw dirty fuel as petrol queues linger. These are some of the major stories on The Guardian.
All right. Now, let's take a look at The Nation newspaper this morning. The lead story says, hashtag #EndSARS, federal government renews battle with Twitter. Microblogging agency accused of double standards in Canada's truckers' protest. And then you see also death toll in collapsed Lagos building rises to 5. Well, these are mainly the main stories. At the top there, just before we go, Olubadan to be Balogun picks name. You see PDP, APC share FCT councils equally. AGF to CCT chair Aladi, submit yourself for probe. Tinubu meets with monarchs in Ogun State. These are the major stories today on the front page of The Nation.
Okay, let's take one more. The Punch this morning. Fuel sells for 400 naira per litre in Abuja. Others, scarcity persists in Lagos. And the riders there state marketers still struggling to return adulterated petrol to NNPC. Corporation pleads for patience, says fuel queues would end soon. And there's a very disturbing pictorial there that shows burnt shops, government officials or residents at Alakasa Market, Ilesha, Osun State on Sunday. You see other stories on the Punch right at the top. TCN gets transformers to increase power transmission by 1,487 megawatts. And that story is on page 32 on the Punch. Nupeng set for strike, insists ministry diverting 621 billion naira road fund. Banks forex ban. Dollar scarcity, inflation, firms closure imminent, experts warn. And there's a writer there that says CBN policies eroding investors' confidence, fueling uncertainties. And this is according to economists. And on page 4, NDLEA seizes 25 kilogram US, UK, Dubai bound drugs in spare parts and fabrics. Ekiti teenagers land in prison over alleged attempts to kill sex worker. And on page 43, Olubadan, we await Makinde's verdicts today, says Balogun. These are some of the major stories on the Punch.
All right, now let's get perspectives on this. Like we told you, we have Zainab Okinu, the chairperson, editorial board, Blueprint newspaper, in the studio to give us perspectives on this. Thank you again for joining us on Daybreak.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. All right, now, well, we'll begin with some very interesting stories. There are permutations about, ASU going on another strike again. I mean, this is like, I don't know how else to describe this, but here we go again. And a lot of students are already agitated, about this. How worrisome is this?
It's truly very worrisome for parents, for students, for the society, the country as a whole. I mean, for the umpteenth time, we are talking about another strike. For how long are we going to continue this way? Over and over, we've had this strike from ASU or some other agencies of government. Why can't we fix this issue once and for all? I mean, I remember the last strike, which took a toll on all of us as a people. There were some agreements before they called off the strike. Remember, ASU will always tell you they are suspending. Suspending in the sense that there are still gray areas. Maybe, but for the sake of sanity, let us just suspend. Then, some of those agreements contained in some of those agreement issues, some of those things agreed upon, the government will fail again. And then before you know it, ASU will be calling for another strike. We really need to put an end to this. And then for students especially, many of us, especially in the last 25 years, many graduates have been victims of ASU strike. People who ordinarily should spend 4 years, most ended up spending 6 years. Then for a 6-year course, some ended up spending 8 years. To think that we are still in that circle, that issue is still revolving, still continuing, it's such a shame. It's a shame to the country. Really,
and it looks like, the accusation has always been that government is not meeting up with the demands, or I would say rather the agreements made in terms of implementing and all of that. And over the years, we've seen that, some monies have been released to ASU, but, the what do you call it now? The consistency or the timing of this, strike is, it almost come like, it's beginning to look like twice in a year now, And sometimes when they go on the strike, you are not even sure when they are going to, call it off and all of that. Some have argued that, government cannot, provide the kind of fund that ASUU is requesting. Do you share in that thought too?
No, I do not think that government cannot provide the money. The problem we have is that there are wastages elsewhere, in so many other places. And that's why there's not enough to provide for ASUU. If government really wants to be in charge, they have to stop wasting. If education is a priority to us, I mean, the way I look at it is that it's as if education is not a priority to this country. If government wants to make education a priority, they can make provision for it. Is it not because politics is a priority that we are making provision, not just for INEC to conduct elections? In fact, government hardly fails when it comes to providing INEC with the means to conduct elections. So why are we now failing when it comes to education? So it is because we don't see it as a priority.
Yeah, but if you say that, government will on this part say, well, there are a lot of other priorities that we have to deal with. The security of the nation, for instance, is under threat, and even look at the health sector. It's also a priority area. And, the whole issue about the economy, infrastructural development and all of that is a priority. So how do we strike that balance, really? Well,
before these other issues, like security especially, became a priority, was ASUU not going on strike. There are things that we would have been able to fix some 25, 30 years ago that we didn't fix. And don't forget that these ASUU demands have been on for over 10 years. What does it take to release this money in tranches? I think there will be understanding if ASUU will understand if this money is released in tranches. I don't think they are expecting all the billions at a go. But I also expect that ASUU should show understanding. But it all depends on what the government offers, because the federal government owns these universities. So government should be able to offer something, and I will expect ASUU to also show some understanding and make some concession. And we all need to make concession so that other aspects of our lives, as you mentioned, security, health especially, and other social services, there could be enough attention given to them too. But by and large, I think part of the problem we're having is that government consistently has reneged on their pledges to ASUU.
Well, we hope to see, subsequently what really happens with the whole strike issue as we're getting to here. Now, another very important issue that we are seeing on the papers this morning is the issue of fuel queues. There's been long queue. It has been terrifying and hectic, and getting on these queues. And NNPC, according to The Guardian, is yet to withdraw, the adulterated fuel in circulation. What do we really hope to see this come to an end? When?
Well, to be fair to NNPC and the federal government, they did promise that they will be swift in their reaction in removing this bad fuel, contaminated fuel from our system. They did promise, and I want to believe that they are doing something about it. But it's also not as easy as, I don't know the process involved in removing what is already in the system, what has already circulated throughout the country. I don't know what the process is. But because of the desperation that people are going through now in trying to get fuel, most might want to even get it as bad as it is. But it's very destructive to our vehicles, and it is sad if it is true that petrol now sells for as high as 400 per liter. So, and that it normally will have domino effects. Transport, food, and already we are living in a very bad time. So it will further exacerbate our problems. But NNPC has to be swift about this. Because even the compensation that the federal government promised, how are we going to get it? We have heard about compensation, but we've not had the how of it. How is it going to happen? Are you going to dash Nigerians 20 liters of petrol, 50 liters? How are we going to? I mean, it's not enough to make pronouncements. You should follow it with some actionable
steps.
Yes, to help to solve the problem.
Well, quite interesting, really. Now,
is it interesting or is sad?
no, I mean the way we have to now, continue to talk about this, and it's almost becoming like a ritual now. Going about this whole field thing. Government says one thing, and then we get to see another thing, and all of that. Now,
that's why people don't trust government.
Truly. All right. Now, there's some other stories on the Blueprint newspaper, which is very, very interesting to take a look at. The lead story on the Blueprint talks about the Executive Order 10. It says SANS CSOs tango over Supreme Court ruling. The riders to that says Apex Court right order invitation to anarchy. That's according to Akintola. Judiciary autonomy not within FG's purview. That's our Kalu. Minority judgment in order. Golden opportunity lost. That's Ege Okutepa. And then you have Buhari ill-advised. Order not necessary. Sislak Jide Ojo. You see also mobilizing citizenry against states Caesar's way out. That's Yaga Africa's own reaction. Now, it appears that the Blueprint is like the only paper that led with this story, and that's strikes my curiosity here. Thankfully, you are here, so maybe give us an idea. I'm not the editor of the paper. I'm also seeing it for the first time, but it's an old story. I mean, they just tried to spice it up with more perspectives from stakeholders. So that's just what made the difference. So it's not really news. It's not really news. It's not news. Yes. But bringing up all these other perspectives, maybe has now those have now made it interesting. So, but I think the Supreme Court has spoken. I think there was a time in the last few years when some political actors tried to ask Supreme Court to reverse itself, and the Supreme Court insisted. So I don't know what people hope to gain from bringing up the issue again when the Supreme Court has made its pronouncement, except it's no longer supreme. Well, the Supreme Court's final. Supreme Court's judgment is final here in this case.
It's final, at least at this moment. That's what the law says. Have we heard of any reversal? No. I don't think so. I have not seen any. So, but then we can continue to discuss it, because some other day there will be an opportunity for something similar, and CBN. And the Supreme Court may have to look at it again. So perhaps they'll come to a compromise.
Okay, talking about CBN, as you're giving a tip, the story on the Daily Trust newspaper about 2023 moves to draft Emefiele thickens. When you say, what do you expect that?
I don't understand our politicians. Here is a man who has a mandate, a 5-year mandate after it was renewed. And then you are calling him to come to join politics, to come and do what? So I think there are some rabble-rousers somewhere that are always looking for a way of drawing the attention of people that they think have the means to sponsor certain things. I do not want to believe that the CBN governor had anything to do with it. So I don't know what their aim is. I don't know what, but in every political situation, there must be some form of ulterior motive somewhere that we might not be privy to. So, who knows? It's just unfolding. in the next few weeks, we'll see what happens.
It's beginning to look more like we have, campaign groups that are now, I would say, not professionals, but they are experts in, striking conversations and mentioning names and bringing up names, like you said, for people who may, wish to fall in for that and begin to consider that, oh, okay, maybe I should contest, for this, and it's becoming like it's like a cash cow, or rather, people are making a living out of this, in our political space. Whether that is for the good or not, what's your thinking around
I see it as a job for the boys. Many people are hungry, and they are jobless. There's no job. The job market is already saturated, and everybody now who has, I don't want to say those who don't have shame, so they do things that are almost abnormal and unrealistic. But you know what they say? There's no smoke without fire.
Right.
Sometimes there's so much behind that we do not know. So it is possible that some people want him as a compromise candidate for the East. So it's up to the electorate now, or and which party? They did not even mention.
Some have said Buhari.
So he will just come from somewhere, from nowhere, to become an aspirant.
It will be very interesting to see how somebody like Emefiele will stand up to the leader of the APC, the kingmaker who wants to be king now, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to contest for the same seat. It will be very interesting to see that that kind of race. But we keep our fingers crossed.
Talking about a kingmaker, I want it to be king. Yes. Oh, interesting. I can't even wait to see. There's always a problem when a kingmaker wants to be king. Yeah. There are always issues. Yeah. Sometimes you are just good as a kingmaker, behind the scene, do your work, and then let's wait and see. Yeah,
we'll keep our fingers crossed. Nigeria's politics is full of surprises.
Yes.
Really, almost everything is possible,
right.
As they say. So we'll continue to keep watching that and bring you all the updates. Now, again, we will also look at another story on the front page of the Daily Trust that talks about the APC convention. Sales of form has begun. Despite the controversy about zoning, and the whole discussion about whether or not the convention itself will even hold, considering the pending issues that are yet to be resolved by the peace committee that was set up of the APC. So what are your thoughts around this?
You know what, these political groups, you can never find a solution to their problems. So they have so many problems. My take is that at least we have started from somewhere. Finally, APC has thrown the door open now. So at least those aspiring to be this and that can now buy their forms. There were doubts originally that it might not even hold. There are still gray areas. There will always be gray areas. Yeah. But by the end of this week, we'll see the number of people who have bought forms, and we'll know those who are serious and those that are pretending to be this and that. So let's give them that benefit of the doubt.
So could you, what do you think about the whole issue of zoning? Zoning. What do you think about the whole conversation about zoning?
Personally, I do not mind zoning. Anything that can engender peace in this country, I don't mind going for it. If there is zoning and it is constitutional, zoning is just an arrangement, a convenient arrangement among political parties. It's not a constitutional thing. Though we know it's not a constitutional thing, but zoning it helps bring about sanity in the system. If only this thing is in the constitution, it would have been easy for us to say, well, it's your turn today, it's your turn today. But it was an understanding. But ever since 2011, when ex-President Jonathan broke that ice, when he didn't keep to the zoning arrangement earlier promised by the PDP then, it's as if it has been thrown open. And That was why he got his pound of flesh in 2015. You know, remember, if you recall, in 2011, the North said he had just completed, that's Jonathan, had just completed Yar'Adua's term. And as such, they should still be given the opportunity to have another 4 years. But because he was already in power, and you know the power of incumbency in Nigeria, it was difficult to stop him. So then everything just went bad for him later. So if only the political parties themselves can come to an arrangement whereby power sharing will not be, every 4 years we have this issue of zoning or to zone or not to zone, to zone or not to zone. I would love a situation where until we mature to a level where we should just seek the best. We should just seek the best instead of looking for where the zone parties that should come up with a presidential aspirant or not.
You know, some will say that, I mean, if you insist on zoning, then the rights of some Nigerians may not be realized in some way. It's like putting a limitation or restriction, you know, on how much people can aspire and all of that. And those who said, there are those who said, well, that will compromise on merit, you know, in regards to selecting, you know, the right leaders, you know, for the country. So on both sides, there are arguments. Those who are championing zoning also talk about, you know, this need for rotation of power so that it will give opportunity for other parts of the country to also have a chance, you know, of governing the country and all of that. So, but, you know, overall, you know, why is it so important, you know, this conversation of zoning from the perspective that you are taking?
The reason why it is important in a country like Nigeria is because there is no equity. If there is equity and fairness, it does not matter where the president comes from. It does not matter where the president comes from. I mean, in America, in the UK, do they care about zoning? I don't think it's even, they know what zoning is about there. So it's because there is no equity that we talk about zoning, because it does appear that the zone that gets the presidency gets the useless part of the country's oil money or resources or siting of some development projects and all that. So that's why it's such a big issue. For me, what matters most is equity, fairness, and justice to all Nigerians. But it is not constitutional. And time will come when it will no longer matter. It will no longer matter where you come from.
In other words, Nigeria is not necessarily, our democracy is not ripe, you know, for the kind of, you know, open kind of system.
I won't say it's not ripe. We keep saying we are not ripe for this, we are not ripe for this. We are not ripe for, what is it the other day that they said we are not ripe for? When are we going to be ripe for anything? After 60 years of independence.
And most of which was, you know, ruled by the military anyways.
It does not matter. I mean, the new democratic dispensation started in 1998. That's
1999.
1999. 22 years?
Yes.
22 plus. I mean, isn't a 22-year-old guy or lady is,
yeah, but democratically,
already.
Democratically, some have argued that it's quite young. It's quite 22 years is quite young for a country like Nigeria to really begin to, you know, have a sense of direction, like in terms of building of institutions that will be very strong, you know, as such.
I can bet you that in the next 20 years, if we are all alive to witness how Nigeria will evolve, people will still be arguing about maturity. We are not ripe for this, we are not ripe for that. We are never ready for anything.
So
we are never ready for anything. if I ever have an opportunity, but I'm not a politician anyway, I will insist on certain things. And it will be. It will be.
All right.
We just have to get it right once and for all. Constitutional amendment. How many times have we tried to amend the Constitution? Okay, we are not ripe, we are not ripe. Amend this one now, you will not do it. At least let's get over one, then we move to the next one. We don't even want to move at all.
Quite a touching story on the front page of Daily Trust this morning about, a housewife who was found slaughtered in Kano. If you look at the trends, of the kind of stories that we've been seeing recently, even a 5-year-old, was poisoned and killed by her own teacher some few weeks ago. We saw a boy in Maiduguri also who was slaughtered. Not to talk about the cases, several cases of rape and abuse and eventual killing, abductions and the rest. What does this say, in your thoughts about this recent happenings in our society? Are we seeing an increase of this kind of atrocities?
Obviously, there's an increase, but social media has also helped to shine a light on some of these issues. I mean, it has always been there, like I mentioned earlier. There are bad people everywhere. Wickedness has always been there. We don't know the motives because this has just happened. We don't know the motives. We don't even know who the killers are. I expect that police will swing into action and do their normal investigation and prosecution. I also don't hope it will stop there. I hope it will go beyond that, fish out the killers and then tried. I think the problem with us is that when something like this happens, it seems to be the end. We don't hear anything about it again. Yeah. And before you know, another one will happen. So if only those involved, police, the judiciary, everybody will do their work. And let us be seeing these cases, let the prosecution be open, let the judiciary be open with everything so that we see how these people end up in prison, getting punished for their infractions.
I think the case of Hanifa is setting a tone to that. So maybe some will say maybe it has become a public, a public concern case that people are interested in. That's why it's in.
Hanifa is only it's because of the way her own is. Her own is really bizarre. I mean, when a protector becomes a predator. So, and because she's just a child, a 5-year-old child, so it has been generating a lot of interest. And the fact that they were able to apprehend the man. But there are so many cases, tens and hundreds of cases that killers are never found. Everything is quiet. You never get to know who did it and who gets punished. Even when we get to know who did what, you don't know who is punished for what. So everything is just muddled up at the end of the day. I hope the young lady who was a mother of 2, will get justice in the end. Because nothing gives hope to a society than justice being done.
True. All right, now let's take a look at also another story on the front page of Daily Trust that talks about, private sector alliance raises 100 billion naira to fight insecurity. So talking about, having this all-encompassing approach to fight against insecurity and how stakeholders, literally everyone needs to be involved with the fight. 100 billion naira now raised by the private sector alliance. And that's a commendable effort there.
Yeah. Commendable indeed.
What are your thoughts about how we can utilize? Because it's one thing to even raise the money.
Yes.
It's another to channel the money to proper use.
At least we have started from somewhere. Let all segments of the society get involved because the private sector, mostly corporate Nigeria, business cannot thrive in the face of insecurity. So I'm happy that they have come up with this. And once the money is raised, I do not think disbursement will be an issue because there are already strategies and there are suggestions. I want to believe that they also make their own input. So I don't think spending the money will be a problem. Already there are efforts. It's not as if there are no efforts in place. There are efforts in place. Government is doing its best, even though it's not good enough. But I'm happy that the private sector has come into it. So the private sector will not give you money without monitoring it. At least, because of their background as businessmen. So I want to believe that they will not just give this money, they will also monitor it and come up with suggestions on how to solve this our major problem, this problem of insecurity that is threatening to take over the country.
Well, just before we go, there's a piece here at the back page of the Daily Trust newspaper that we wouldn't finish this without mentioning it, and it's something that you really want to pick a copy of the Daily Trust to read through. It's a piece by the Deputy Editor-in-Chief Daily Trust newspaper, Suleiman, and it talks about is Section 99 stupid? Well, that's a big issue there, and if I may, I'll just take a quote from it. It says, by this provision, Chief Bola Tinubu, Governor Dave Umahi, and Rochas Okorocha, etc., have all already violated this law. To inform the president of their bid for the presidency is to canvass for his vote, regardless of the intervening primaries. After all, the president is a registered voter. To call a press conference and recount all of that to Nigerians is also to canvass for their votes. So I am guessing that's a conversation about, the campaigns, when campaigns should begin for elections. The Constitution has given the provision, the electoral law, as a matter of fact, has provided clearly when politicians can commence campaigning and politicking. But clearly, it's something that has been violated over and over. INEC doesn't even have a timetable yet for the election. And we are seeing already things that look like campaigns, by the very people who are sometimes even in government. So
there are too many things. So let's take it one by one. INEC is waiting for the electoral amendment
bill.
Bill.
Yes, bill.
Waiting for it.
Yes,
Otherwise, I think
signed.
they already have a fair idea of what they want to do. Then, as a columnist, as a syndicated columnist, I don't like commenting on other people's opinions because it's purely their opinions. So you can put up your own opinion if you feel anything to the contrary. So, but I want to believe he is talking of, you mentioned something about the presidential aspirants going to the president.
Yes.
From everything you have said, whether about timetable campaigning, because they can tell you that they have not formally started any campaign. They are just doing consultations. So, but from everything you have said is, something is wrong with the aspirants that felt the need for them to go and meet the president to tell him about their aspirations, whereas the president has only one vote. That's what I can pick from what the summary you just did.
And
the president has only one vote.
And again,
why go to
canvassing
the president?
for support, from Nigerians by making all these press conferences, and all of that.
Press conference is not enough to count. It's not like canvassing for votes. It's an elitist thing anyway. It's for you and I. The real people that vote at the grassroots, they are the ones you should go and tell that you want to be president. But the point you are trying to make is that the whistle has not even been blown and they have started campaigning. That's why I said they can explain it away. They can tell you that they have not had any rally. They can tell you that what their supporters are doing is they are doing it on their own volition, trying to sensitize people about them. They can tell you 1,001 things why what they are doing is right. And they are just doing consultation, and there's nothing wrong in consulting with people that, I want to be president, what do you think about it? So they can excuse what they are doing. They can excuse it.
Okay.
I do not think, even if you take this case to court, you can easily win. Yeah, I don't think you can easily win. But it's his opinion.
Yes, and it's an argument.
What I pick from there is that why consult with the president when you have not consulted with the people?
Well, again, that's also another, you know, argument there. Well, thank you so much for, you know, coming on Daybreak this morning and sharing your perspectives with us. We will continue to engage, you know, in this manner to take a look at the stories that are relevant to us as Nigerians.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that